The name of my product will be the Mexborough Meteor, and its purpose is to inform the readers of news which is happening in their local area of Mexborough. The genre of newspaper I am using to base my newspaper on is community journalism. This would mean that my newspaper is locally orientated and would cover the local area of my choice. My cell line is going to be Making for the Masses, and I will use this because it uses the literary technique of alliteration on the M which is in my masthead. I believe a local independent company would produce my product. This is because a conglomerate would specifically publish such national newspapers as The Sun, and would in turn have contrasting topics to my local newspaper. This would mean I would have to have a company such as Johnston Press to publish my newspaper, as this company publishes many specifically local newspapers throughout the UK, from the Scotsman to the Sun News. The ages I aim for my newspaper to be aimed at are the ages between 35 and 45. This is because statistically I have researched which ages in my local area consume the most newspapers, and this was the outcome. The social classes I will be aiming for are between DE, or lower working class, and C1, lower middle class, as these are the classes seen mainly in my local region. Concerning sexual category, I do not have a specific gender which I am going to aim for. However, I could slightly aim my newspaper topics more at females, due to research I have undertaken showing that this gender reads slightly more newspapers than males. Lastly, I do not have any specific subcultures, race and sexuality I aim at targeting, and will aim at the general mass. My local audience will be able to consume my product at original locations where newspapers are generally seen. These are such places as local newsagents, supermarkets, service stations and 24-hour garages. My main story headline will be South Yorkshire's famous fighting pub. I chose this name particularly because in my area there is a pub named mainly for being aggressive and has quite a bad reputation. Therefore, in my newspaper I will comment on the bad events which have happened there within the past year, and some of the horrific actions taken. This will also mean myself mentioning what actions the pub could possibly take in future to prevent these actions from reoccurring. My half-led story is going to be called Mexborough School Success. This will mainly be a story describing the success the local school has had in the past year, and basically congratulating the school on a high success rate. This story will only be small, but it could be quite influential. Within the main stories on the front cover, the images aren't going to have any specific people within them. However, I will use for my main story a picture of the pub, which I mention in the story, and I could edit it using Photoshop to connote a sense of evil by making the colours darker. Within my half-led story, I will merely use the school logo to show which school I am congratulating on good achievement. The interviews I may partake in are witnesses to specific crimes that have happened in the pub, such as a murder and general violence. This is because it is mainly used to appeal to the audience, showing the reputation of the pub in a bad light. The mise-en-scène I intend to use within my newspaper will revolve around the generic conventions of a normal newspaper. However, as commonly seen in both national and local newspapers, the mastheads tend to be of a slightly deeper red. However, on my masthead, I intend to use the colour of navy blue instead of the generic red in order to show that my newspapers could differ from these. I have also used this colour as meteors are generally seen as white or blue within space. The other colours I intend to use are basically just black and white within the text. This is because it will contain the sense of verisimilitude within the newspaper, rather than having various colours which would clash incredibly to the formal outlook of a newspaper. The house style is going to appear again as a generic local newspaper. This could be seen as having the advertisements and half-lead story on the right-hand side of the newspaper, to show that they are of less concern to the audience. I will then add a medium-sized image of the pub to show what the audience understands to be the evil within the newspaper, and then underneath have main columns of text to show where my article will be to describe the whole situation. I will also have my masthead immediately at the beginning of the newspaper, like all general newspapers, so that the audience understands which newspaper they are purchasing. The advertisements I intend to use on the bottom right-hand side of my paper are that of my local gym. This will influence both young and older readers to go to this gym, as the advertisement reads 16+. As it is also informal, it will show that no one of a specific social group goes to this gym, and therefore advertises for a wide variety of people within Mexborough. I am unsure as of yet whether to have a banner within the top section of my newspaper, depending on whether the newspaper looks effective or not. However, I do think that the banner will be of a competition telling the winner that they could have a chance of winning £10,000 or winning a laptop. This will all be done to persuade the general population to buy the newspaper so that they could be in a chance to win a good prize, and would in turn make my newspaper more popular in my audience. Firstly, the print poster I am creating to base my newspaper on could be sponsored by the charity Macmillan Cancer. I am deciding to base my newspaper around this charity because statistically, the total of men who read local newspapers are 18,850 and 20,061 for women. This would mean that the most influential gender would be women to base this charity upon, as they could be said to be more compassionate. However, I have used this charity also because cancer affects both males and females, and therefore aims at a general population. This is a charity I intend to link to both my ancillary products with, and therefore in my print product I could use the General Macmillan or Cancer badge sign and change it so that it resembles the look of a newspaper, or just use this symbol. I will also make the advert simple and therefore make it look effective so the audience is influenced to buy it just for the fact of its simplicity. For the radio advertisement, I am going to make a kind of jingle so that the audience is aware that this is my own unique sound. I plan on researching more radio jingles, what other local newspapers have done, and then will thoroughly plan this out as I produce it. For health and safety, I will use a photography call sheet and an interview call sheet whenever either is needed to show evidence that I have actually partaken in these activities, and will keep one at home in order to show where I am if anyone needs these details. I will also write what equipment that I am using within a document and when I intend to use them, so I can keep them within a safe area at all times, and then I will be able to recover these items if these in turn go missing. The final money budget I plan on using is most likely going to be less than £100, and more specifically around the £30 and £50 mark for this first production of my local newspaper. I believe it would cost around this much due to the fact that I will have to print out the whole of this newspaper, which, even though this newspaper will be classed as free, still needs money when concerning creating this product. Travel cost is not a concern to myself as I am not leaving the local area, and every area of which I am targeting is within walking distance. However, I may need to spend some money on advertising my local newspaper in such places as newsagents and companies which will publish my newspaper altogether, which will come at a price, maybe slightly more than my budget. If so, I would be willing to pay a maximum of £100.